Have you ever had a moment that just completely changed your perspective on the world around you? For me, that moment arrived on a tiny, feathered wing. It all started on a blustery Tuesday morning. I was rushing to get out the door. Coffee in one hand, laptop bag in the other. Mentally already in my first meeting. As I fumbled with my keys, I nearly stepped on it. A tiny sparrow crumpled on my doorstep. It was barely breathing, one of its wings bent at an unnatural angle. My first instinct, I'm ashamed to say, was annoyance, a delay. But then I looked closer. I saw the faintest flutter of its chest, a desperate, silent plea. And in that instant, my whole day, my whole world shifted. I couldn't just leave it there. Carefully, I scooped up the fragile little creature in a soft cloth from my car and placed it in a shoebox I found in the garage. I lined it with an old T-shirt, fashioned a tiny water dish from a bottle cap, and left some crushed seeds nearby. I called my boss, mumbled something about a home emergency, and spent the next hour frantically Googling how to care for an injured sparrow. The internet offered a mix of advice, from let nature take its course to complex instructions on setting a wing. I decided on a middle path, warmth, safety, and a quiet space to heal. I named him Pip. It seemed fitting for such a small being with such a surprisingly strong will to live. For the first few days, Pip did little more than rest. I'd check on him constantly, my heart leaping with anxiety each time. Was he breathing? Had he drunk any water? Then, on the third day, I walked in to find him standing, wobbly but upright, pecking at the seeds. I could have cried with relief. It was a tiny victory, but it felt monumental. Caring for Pip became my new routine. My mornings were no longer frantic rush, but a quiet ritual of changing his water, offering fresh food, and speaking to him in soft tones. I'd tell him about my day, my worries, my small joys. He'd just tilt his head, his bright black eyes watching me intently. It was a one-sided conversation, of course, but I felt heard in a way I hadn't in a long time. In a world that often feels loud and demanding, the quiet companionship of this tiny bird was a balm to my soul. As Pip grew stronger, his personality began to shine through. He was curious and surprisingly bold. His injured wing never fully healed, leaving him unable to fly more than a few feet at a time. He couldn't soar, but oh, could he hop? He would hop from his box onto my desk, exploring every pen and paper clip with intense focus. He'd perch on my monitor while I worked, occasionally chirping what sounded like encouragement. He had a particular fondness for classical music, becoming still and attentive whenever I played patch. My friends thought I was a little crazy. You have a pet sparrow? They'd ask, a mix of amusement and disbelief in their voices. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't see the trust in his eyes when he'd hop onto my face. They didn't feel the gentle weight of him on my shoulder. As I read a book, Pip wasn't just a bird. He was a friend. He taught me about resilience, about finding joy in the small things, and about the profound connection we can have with nature when we just slow down enough to notice. One of the most incredible things was watching him interact with the outside world from the safety of my window. He would sit on the sill for hours, chirping back and forth with the sparrows in the garden. It was a conversation I couldn't understand, a whole world I wasn't a part of. It was a bittersweet bittersweet reminder that he belonged out there. I knew our time together was borrowed. My home was a sanctuary, a place for him to heal, but it wasn't his forever home. The day I decided to let him go was one of the hardest of my life. His wing was as healed as it was ever going to be. He was strong, chirpy, and full of life. Keeping him any longer felt selfish. It felt like caging a spirit that was meant to be, if not completely free, then at least among his own kind. I took his box out to the garden, my hands trembling.
I opened the lid and knelt on the grass, my heart aching.
Pip hopped to the edge of the box and looked at me. He tilted his head in that familiar way, and for a long moment we just stared at each other. There was no grand cinematic farewell. He just looked at me, then at the garden, and then, with a determined little hop and a flutter, he launched himself into the low branches of a rose bush. He joined a small flock of other sparrows who had gathered nearby, chattering away. For a few minutes he stayed there, a part of the group, before they all flew off together. He didn't look back. I sat in the garden for a long time after he was gone, the empty shoebox beside me. It wasn't sadness I felt, not entirely. It was a profound sense of gratitude. This tiny bird, this accidental guest, had entered my life and completely rewired it. He taught me patience. He taught me the importance of compassion. He reminded me that even the smallest, most fragile lives have immense value and purpose. I still think about Pip every day. Every time I see a sparrow, I smile and wonder if it's him. My life is back to being busy, but it's a different kind of busyness. I take time to notice the bird song in the morning. I stop to watch the squirrels play in the park. My encounter with Pip opened my eyes to the incredible, intricate world of nature that exists right outside our doors, a world we so often ignore in our rush. That little sparrow didn't just heal his wing in my home. He healed a part of me I didn't even know was broken. He showed me that sometimes the most meaningful connections come in the most unexpected packages. And for that, I will be forever grateful. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you do like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories. See you next time.